Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event. Are you ready to pop your cork? In the left corner is 6'4", 242 pounds, with a record of 45-0, the undisputed.
Hey, Michael.
Hey, Will.
Hey, how many bottles of wine have you had?
Well, Will, it's not the wine. I'm just so excited about the podcast.
Yeah, I am too. This is not a boxing match. This is We Know Texas Vino.
Salute.
Welcome back, all you Texas wine lovers. I'm your host, Will, and we are at another amazing location today. In fact, actually, I'm looking out at the east side of this building here, and it's just an amazing view that's got out here. And so we're out here at Portree, Cellars in High, Texas, and we have Janet and Mark Miertschin here with us. Thank you for joining me on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, so thanks. Before we really dig into this, you poured us all some wine. What are we drinking right now?
You're drinking my 2021 Fiano from Pepperjack Vineyards. Fiano is something we were looking to plant a white grape on our property, and Fiano was what we wanted to do. And in the process, we met the folks at Pepperjack out in Brownfield and have been making a wine with them for 3 years now, hoping to have some estate grapes soon.
Nice. And I will have to say that Fiano is, I've never drank it before. And actually, you know, when you poured it for us, I was like, okay, so this is Fiano. What's the varietal? And you're like, well, it's Fiano. And I'm like, oh. I felt about that tall.
Sorry.
That's okay, you know, because, you know, there's so many grapes that are out there. There's so many varietals of grapes out there that I still haven't heard all of them either. So, I mean, it's you know, it's a new one, and it's actually one of my favorite white ones that I've tried. I love trying new ones. So, and I see we got a different one right over here. What's this one being drank over here?
That's a Sangiovese Rosé from Leahy Vineyards.
Interesting.
Yeah, so.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then I've got a Montepulciano on the table too, so we can try that later.
I can't wait for that one. So real quick, so folks, you can find us on Facebook at We Know Texas Vino. You can also find us on our website at weknowtexasvino.wine or even .com. And you can find us on any podcasting platform. And when you listen to us, give us a 5-star rating, give us some feedback, because we love feedback. We love to hear about wineries you want us to go check out, what kind of education topics we want to hit. Well, you're listening to episode 68 out here at Portree Cellars in High, Texas. And first, I want to just start off. Thank y'all for having us out here. This is such a beautiful, beautiful place. And folks, we're going to post pictures about on this on our social media and also on our website. But this place, when you pull into it, you drive through the vineyard a little bit, you see a little bit of the country scenery, and then you come in and you see this really, and I don't know if this is what you're going for, but I'm going to call it this way, an abstract building, because it was a building in awe. I mean, I really loved seeing it pulling in. It just made me happy. It made me feel cozy. I felt right at home. So that's what I wanted to say right off the bat. That's what I thought about y'all's building.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I think that's kind of what we're hoping to evoke, with people to feel like they're at home. They come in, they're welcome, and it's cozy. They can sit down and just enjoy a glass of wine with family and friends. That's where we got the name Portree. We were on a vacation with family and in a really pretty place. And that was kind of like our vision. We thought that's what we want. So I'm glad it had that impression on you. Yeah, it had that impression.
And I'm glad you actually said that, because my next question was going to ask, how did you come up with the name Portree? So do you want to elaborate a little bit more on that? I mean,
well, it's on the Isle of Skye.
Okay.
And I think it was our son's graduation. And so we went there as a family, did a lot of hiking. It's this really pretty little fishing village. Mm-hmm. And we were trying to think, we spent a long time trying to come up with the name, and it just evokes memories, positive memories for us. And the stones on the side of the name also remind us of all the work. We took out a lot of rocks out of this place and moved them 2 or 3 times, getting them in the right place. So it's definitely a labor of love.
Interesting. You know, and it's always, when you do your first place, you know, all the work you have to go into. In this case, you're up on a mountain, so there's a lot of rocks you got to get out of here, just to get what you want to. But now you've got a great facility. It's very beautiful, and you did a really good job on this.
Well, thank you.
So tell me something about you. I want to know, where did this love of wine come from? And it didn't just start overnight. I mean, like everybody here, we all had a day job. What was your day job? What did you do, and how did you get into this area? Now, you're going to be a part of that question too. Don't think you're getting out of that one.
Yeah, I might need to stand up for myself to clarify what Janet says.
Yeah, there's always 2 sides to the story.
Oh, wow. So we may well have to do that. Do we need to exit her out of the room first and then you talk?
Well, I'll just say I tried making wine in my 20s out of native grapes. It did not turn out very successful, to say the least. And I've always had an interest in winemaking. We've gone to a lot of wine regions over our marriage, and always just liked the vibe of wineries and wine tasting rooms. So it's always kind of been a dream of mine. I'm not sure about Janet. We'll hear from her in a second, but that was part of the impetus for doing this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and my one of my first memories together as a couple is Napa. We went there early on, so it's very beautiful. And I never thought I would own a winery. My memory is a few years ago, him sitting in the TV room and saying, "I think we should grow grapes and make wine." And I thought, it'll pass. I'm sure this will pass. And then he jumped in and started doing UC Davis classes. And then it's like, we need to buy some land. And honestly, for me, it wasn't until I met the folks in the Texas wine industry that really switched me over. I was working in a corporate job. I loved the company, loved the people in the petrochemical industry. But it's corporate life, right? And these people were so much more relaxed. They were very approachable. I remember the PARs, saying, "Come on over, we'll sit down with you and we'll talk to you about how we got into this and what we do." And I thought, do I need an NDA for that? Can I really talk to you? And sure enough, they were just so welcoming. And so that really, I think that was my mental switch over to saying, I think I could do this.
Well, and that's the one thing I love about Texas wine industry. Now, and I've talked to some people from California, Washington, Oregon about their industry up there, and they said they're not as friendly as Texas is. And they've talked to some people down here, and they were like, we come down here and we've talked to the winemakers here, and they're friendly, they're inviting, they want to share their love, their passion, and they said that when you go to California, they don't do that very often. And I'm not trying to bash California. I'm not trying to bash them. I'm just saying that our industry down here is completely unique, because it's not like, a fast food industry, where, Burger King doesn't talk to McDonald's. "Hey, what are you doing? Do you need some help over here?" It's not like that. Yeah. I know up in North Texas, last year, one of the vineyards got hit by a tornado. And everybody in the community came over there to help raise the vines back up. And you don't find that in any other environment in this world.
Yeah. I think Texas has a culture of really helping out and being very open and welcoming too. So I think that, and then maybe Texas is a little earlier in its evolution than maybe California is now.
Yeah.
Because my memories of California were maybe a little bit more approachable, a little easier to get into different places, more variety of grapes. And so they've had a more evolution over time. So
yeah, I know. I was talking to somebody, and they were saying that Texas wine industry right now is where California was in the 80s. And I'm like, where I'm at now, I sit down and I look at the big picture of it, and I think that's where we're at. But I think where we're at on our trajectory for the future, we are like really fast pacing it. I mean, because there are some people out there like, Ron and John and Bob and Alfonso and a few others that are just like, they're pressing. They're, let's try some different varietals. Let's get something out here. Let's try it. Let's see what we can do. And that's just here in the Hill Country. I'm not even talking about the North Texas part. We got people up there that are just pushing. We want to try something more. Let's get something bigger and better out here. I know someone said that they want to try to grow every varietal in Texas, and I'm like, you're crazy.
Yeah, but I think to me, that's one of the things that attracts me, because you're never bored, right? When I first started out, they said, "Oh, you should have like 2 whites, 3 reds, a red blend and a white blend." And I think I have something like 20, 25 wines. I mean, I obviously don't follow instructions very well. I like the variety that Texas has. Maybe eventually we'll all settle out on a few things that really work well, but I really hope not, because I don't like to eat the same thing every night. So why would I want to drink the same wine every night?
Yeah. And that's another thing I love about wines also, because you can get to the same grape from the same vine, 2 different years, and it's 2 totally different grapes.
Yes.
And that's that,
It's very cool.
It's very cool. I mean, just like getting beef, you can get beef from 2 different cows. They're going to probably taste the same. I mean, because you're going to grill them the same and all of that. But wine, you can't make it the same.
Yeah.
That's what I love about wine.
Yes.
We won't go down that path at all. Not right now, anyway. Not today. So you decided you're going to do a winery. You started making wine now. How did you end up finding this location? What made you choose this location?
So we knew we were going to relocate to Marble Falls. So we actually started looking around the Marble Falls area. We're unable to find some properties that we liked. So we started looking in this area. We wanted to be actually off 290, the hustle and bustle of 290. We wanted to have enough, be close enough to Marble Falls to be able to commute. And we looked at a few properties right in this high area. We drove onto this one. I'm not sure what we thought when we saw the front of the property, but when we came up here on this hilltop and saw the view, I think that was the selling point for us, that this is really a nice setting, and we could set this up with kind of an immersive vineyard setting on either side of the tasting room. So
nice. So what kind of soil do you have here?
Very little, to be perfectly honest. It ranges. Our front vineyard is kind of a clayey red soil,
okay,
overlying either limestone or caliche.
Okay.
And when I say overlying, in some places we probably don't have more than a foot of soil.
Oh, wow.
So it's a very low vigor site. If you go to the back vineyard, it's better soil. It's more sandy loam, a little deeper.
Okay.
So you got a range of soils, and we try to use high vigor rootstocks to combat that. There's not a lot of nutrients in the soil, so we supplement through our drip system quite a bit.
Awesome. So I know one of the wineries up in North Texas, she has this very intricate drip system that she literally will sit inside her building where her drip system is and actually feed all the nutrients in there, and it goes out into the vineyards. I mean, it was really, really intricate. And I looked at it and I was like, man, that's called hitting the easy button right there. Because I mean, I've seen some other wineries that don't use that kind of method to get their nutrients out there. They go out there and hand do it. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. That's a lot of extra work there. But I mean, it's expensive. I mean, it's not cheap to set up. Yeah. But when she had it set up, it was pretty interesting watching her feed nutrients out there, you know.
So, no, that's kind of the system we use in our pump house over there. We have an injector system. So
nice. So you get up here and you got your vineyard spot that you're going to do. How did you decide that this is the type of tasting room building that you were going for? The look. Did you just kind of like start a building and like, okay, we're just going to let it build its own self? And
not exactly. Pinterest is my friend.
And it's not your friend because it makes you do more work.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. No, we'd been to a lot of different wineries, and we had some places, and particularly in Willamette Valley, there was one place in particular we liked. And so just, Googling, looking at different styles, we kind of had a layout that we wanted. We knew we wanted kind of a big comfy lounge area where people come in and can kind of hang out, some nice comfy chairs. We also knew we wanted a room that we could do wine dinners in, with tables big enough to actually put a 10-inch plate and 4 glasses. And we knew we wanted a nice prep kitchen to be able to serve out of. And then we thought we'd build this covered pavilion as well, so you have an outdoor space. May eventually cover that and make that a club area. So we kind of just had a layout in mind, and then kind of had some styles in mind. And then we started working with the builder, Grit, out of Bernie, and they had some that we were very aligned with them in terms of their style, and we kind of had we're on the same vibe, and so it just kind of all came together really quickly, actually.
And that's what sometimes it scares people who are, and this is from my experience in talking to people. They get their idea, they get somebody to come and help them do it, like a builder here, and they're expecting 2-3 years to get it going. And next thing you know, 6 months, they got a building up, they got grapes growing, and like, oh, wow, what just happened here,
Yeah. Actually, they were very quick. I mean, it was probably less than a year.
Wow.
We had spent a bit of time before that trying to figure out what we wanted. So it kind of short-circuited the second part of the process, but very pleased with the way it turned out.
Yeah, like I said, it's a very beautiful building you have here, very inviting.
Thank you.
People, guys, if you're out there when you listen to this, y'all need to come out here and check it out. It's absolutely a gorgeous place. And I bet during the springtime, do you have bluebonns that pop out here also?
Yeah, we have a lot of wildflowers, particularly this year with all the rain. It's beautiful.
I bet it was actually nice out here. Well, I need to come out here during the springtime.
Yeah.
Bring my motorcycle up here.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I don't know if you want me to bring my bike up here. It's really loud.
Oh, well, you can leave it outside.
Yeah, we're okay with it.
So something I actually, I believe I read on your website, I do a lot of sustainability and using the technology for that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I guess in the vineyard, we do supplement our irrigation with rainwater off of our barn. So we do have a water well, but we try to use as much rainwater as possible. it's not enough to do everything. Also, we kind of minimize our sprays as much as possible. Don't use a lot of pesticides. We use some integrated pest management where we bring in things like praying mantises, things like that are going to naturally attack some of the pests that are on your grapevines. So, we try to be good stewards of the land. We do no-till in our vine rows, which probably a lot of folks do, but that kind of eliminates the carbon footprint or minimizes it. So
interesting.
Like
now, that's the first time I've heard of bringing praying mantises in. I mean, I've heard, okay, so this is going to sound weird. There's a winery over in Stephenville that brought in sparrows to eat the bugs.
Yeah, we got plenty of those. and I'll say, bringing in the praying mantises, I'm not sure what kind, but about a year or so ago, Janet came in from working in the vineyard and said, "Hey, a praying mantis bit me." And I said, "Those don't bite." And then about a year ago, I was clearing some pruning off the vines, and something bit me, and I looked down. It was a big praying mantis, so I guess they do bite.
Interesting. I've never heard of them biting before.
Yeah, and it hurt too.
Well, I mean, again, I've never been bit by one, so I don't know how it hurt. So that's
you don't want to experience it.
Is it that bad?
It's kind of like a needle jamming into your finger. Okay.
Oh yeah, so then I would have cried definitely because I hate needles. I hate needles. Oh man, I hate needles. Oh man. So you finally got your tasting room going. You got your vineyard going and stuff. And so right now, what is your vines right now? What leaf are they on right now?
So we planted in 3 successive years, 21, 22, 23. So our oldest vines, this is their 4th season. We'll get a pretty nice crop off of those. We do have some 3rd-year Touriga vines, which we'll get a decent crop off of. And then the rest of the vines, we're still kind of shaping them, laying down cordons, that kind of thing. So we have about 3 acres, I guess, that we'll get a crop off of this year.
Interesting. So who's been y'all's biggest inspiration in this industry?
Whoa.
I know I had to drop the big one, didn't I?
Yeah. That's really hard to say because I feel like there's so many great examples out there. I mean, when we first started out, we hired Lydia Nita to help us with the viticulture. And she was great to work with. Really enjoyed working with Lydia.
Who's she with?
What's it called?
Vine
Divino Consulting out of Johnson City. So she was great to work with.
Okay.
And Pebble Rock Vineyards.
Yes, and Pebble Rock Vineyards is their label. Then when we were thinking about building our production, we met John Rivenberg over at Kerrville Hills. And it made a lot of sense to actually get practical experience. We'd made wine at home, but to get some practical experience in a cellar. So went over there and have been there. This will be my 4th year over there.
Nice.
And he's I'd say very inspiring.
He is that.
Yeah. He's got a lot of passion for Texas. I've learned a tremendous amount working with him. Mike Nelson was over there for a couple of years with me with Abastris, and I've learned a lot from Mike as well. Barb with Siboney was over there. I mean, there's just a lot of people. Michael Hilmy. There's just a lot of people out there that are very talented and they're very willing to share their time. And as you said, working in Kerrville was great because not only are you learning from John, but there's all these other people around you and they're willing to share their knowledge because even if you have the same grape and you have the same yeast and all these different protocols, they're all going to come out different.
Right.
It's like making a cake. You can have the same ingredients, but they all come out a little bit different.
Always.
And so you just learn so much, and there's a lot of collaboration and helping each other with their wines.
Right.
So I have a hard time pinning it down. I mean, like I said, the Pars, Dalik and Rob were great early on, sharing their time and their experience. So I don't know. I'm leaving some out.
Well, no, there's some real pioneers out there. The Beckers, Bonarigos, and I've even come up to the Hill Country area as a kid, and the Allers with Fall Creek. They were real pioneers when there really weren't many wineries in Texas. So.
And that's comment I made earlier when I was over at the other location with Artray. That I remember coming out here at Fredericksburg as a kid, and it's orchards everywhere, picking peaches and plums, and with my family, And now here it is. If you look at it, it's all vineyards now. So it's kind of interesting how everything has evolved since then.
Yes.
So when it comes to winemaking, I know where this answer is going to be, but I'm going to ask y'all. Okay. So when it comes to winemaking, what is your favorite part about winemaking?
I have a lot of different favorite parts.
I know drinking is going to be one of them. That's my favorite one too.
Well, yeah, that one's a good one. I think, I love the art of winemaking.
Yes.
I'm an artist and I love to cook. And I just fell in love with winemaking because of the art of it. And I love working with people. Mm-hmm. And in the cellar, it's very much a team sport. You can do it by yourself, but it's a lot more fun when there's other people around.
Right.
And so I love making it with people. I love sharing the experience with other people. I love making a product that is living, breathing, and then you experience it. Maybe it brings back a special memory for you. Mm-hmm. And I just think that's very cool. And it continues to evolve in the bottle. So I don't know. It's just it's the experience, the whole experience of making it, producing it, selling it, crafting a product. I think it's just fun. Yeah. I don't know. What about you?
Well, Jen, it's more involved in the winemaking, but I do have enough knowledge to be dangerous. But
well, I mean, you're on the vineyard doing that part.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a crucial part because there's no grapes, there's no wine.
Yeah, and I help in the winery a bit too, but. To me, the fermentation, I think it's pretty straightforward to get a clean fermentation. Mm-hmm. If you can't do that, you probably shouldn't be a winemaker. But it's all the other things that kind of create the nuances in the wine.
Right.
Whether that's what kind of oak barrels, how long you age it, certain additives maybe, things like that, that really are the art behind the craft.
Yeah. Making wine is definitely an art. And I didn't really, when I first heard that term before, I was like, no, it's not. It's making alcohol and getting people happy. But actually, in the end, it is art because you could take something what was the saying? You could take bad grapes, make good wine, but you could take good grapes, make bad wine. Mm. Is that the problem?
I think it's hard to make good wine from bad grapes.
Yes.
You really need to start with good grapes.
Oh, yeah. Most definitely. You need to start with good grapes. But if you get bad grapes, because there's going to be those seasons where you do get some bad grapes. Yeah,
if you can do that, you're a good winemaker.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've heard some winemakers out there that have taken they said that these grapes were very poor and they actually turned out, I mean, it wasn't like a gold winner.
Yes.
But it did come out to be something really good and it surprised them.
Yeah. And I think for me, that's one of the big pluses for me over in Kerrville because there's so many other winemakers there to see them make mistakes, have successes, have a grape that comes in and you think, oh my gosh, I can't believe they got that. And then, they do X, Y, and Z and you're like, I would not have ever thought of X, Y, and Z. I would have just kind of said write it off. But to your point, it's kind of amazing to watch what, pull a rabbit out of the hat. Oh, I didn't even know there was a rabbit in the hat. Where's the hat? So there's definitely an art and there's a lot of science for sure.
Oh yeah.
But they kind of play off of each other.
Right.
So.
And what's fascinating is every time I talk to a different winemaker, there's always a new technique that I find out about. Like one we just talked about a while ago was they don't even crush the grape; they leave it whole and they put it on dry ice, and they fill it full of I guess carbon or nitrogen to keep it from coming out. And I've never heard of this process before. And I can't even remember what he called it a while ago. But I mean,
cryogenic.
Yeah, cryogenic, yes. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, who decided one day, I'm going to take this grape. I'm not going to crush it. I'm going to put some dry ice on it. And I'm going to ferment it. And it's going to be the greatest wine you're ever going to drink.
It was probably an accident. I said, let's do that again.
And it's one of those happy accidents.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, those are okay too.
Yeah, those are okay. But the problem with a happy accident, you can never recreate them again.
Yeah,
ever. You can try, but you'll never get them that way.
Well, it could be said for a lot of wines too, right? This is really good. You better enjoy it. You may not be able to do it again.
Oh, man. I know there's a lot of wineries out there that they call them the happy accidents, and it becomes their best sellers. And then they're like, okay, I'm trying to recreate this again, and it doesn't work.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So that's always the fun part.
Yes.
Your passions. Okay. We all have our passions, and I'm finding my passion in this industry. What brings out your passions to the point where you actually get frustrated? Because I mean, for example, I everybody knows that I'm an IT guy. I'm passionate about my job. I'm passionate what I do, and sometimes I do things that I have to wait on other people that just frustrates me. I'm like, just leave me alone. Let me get through this path right here, and I'm good. But unfortunately, they're in my path. So what is it that's in this wine industry right now that is your passion for winemaking, but you find something that's just so, I guess, irritating that you become so passionate about that you get angry over it?
Ooh. Yeah, I guess I don't know that I have anything that I'm angry over. I am
frustrating.
Yeah, frustrating.
Well, I can go first because I work the vineyard.
That's something frustrating.
That's a frustrating one.
So there are plenty of things to frustrate you out there. I mean, I'm a plant guy.
Yes.
I have a passion for plants. So I enjoy working in the vineyard, managing the vineyard. But at the end of the day, you're at the mercy of Mother Nature and you're not going to control that. Mm-hmm. So like this spring, we've been hit by about 2-3 hailstorms, which have caused us to do a lot more pruning. It's just a lot more effort this summer. Thankfully, a lot of the crops been preserved because we had nets up. Mm-hmm. But I don't know that it angers me, but it can be frustrating when you think you're really going down the path and things are looking great. Yeah. And then everything changes the next day. So
yeah, Mother Nature lately, I don't know what's wrong with her. We need to figure out what's going on. Get some medication on her, something. Get her some more wine.
Yeah, and I guess to key off of that, I guess it's not a big frustration because I think I've gotten used to it now after 3 or 4 years. But you have a plan at the beginning of the season. You think, I'm going to get these grapes. I'm going to make these wines. And to Mark's point, you're working with a grower and they have damage or they have something that happens, you don't get them, and then you have to go scramble and get something else. And so that can be a little frustrating because then you're kind of like, oh, I already had a plan to do this and now I have to pivot. But if you're good at that and you do it a lot, then you're going to be more successful in the long run.
Well, I think the Texas wine industry and grape growing, you have to be able to be ready to pivot at any given moment.
Yes.
You can all of a sudden be sitting out there looking, your vines are looking very beautiful, and a hailstorm comes in and you just lost half your crop.
Right.
Mm-hmm. In fact, actually a very good example of that is that winery way out in West Texas, Chateau Rat. A couple of years ago, he lost 75% of his crop.
Yeah, sad.
And that's a heartbreaking thing, Mm-hmm. I don't ever want somebody to lose half their crop because that's livelihood being lost.
Yes.
But with that all being said, Texas is such a large state, you could probably find it somewhere else. But is it yours? No. But you at least can find something somewhere else. And,
right.
And that is definitely a major frustration that's all winemakers have here in Texas.
Yes.
So, yeah. I know the frustration also with working in the vineyard because it's 9,000 degrees outside and you got to get out there and clip and you're trying not to get a heat stroke while you're out there. And then
you got the praying mantises too.
Yeah. I haven't experienced that part yet.
Just wait. We'll find one for you.
No, that's okay. Well, I'll pass. I'll definitely have to be on a watch out for that. Put some long sleeve shirts. You're actually getting a special me right now because I do not wear long sleeve shirts. I hate long sleeve shirts, but I think it looks professional.
You look very professional today with your logo and everything.
Well, thank you.
It's very nice.
I tattoo sometimes. So you're out here. So are y'all like outside of High, where y'all actually located at?
We're off of Sandy Road or 1320. So just about a half mile north off of 290. Mm-hmm. Kind of between, I guess, Untamed is on the corner there. Mm-hmm. Sort of between High Meadow, William Chris, if you're coming from Fredericksburg, and then you take a left on Sandy. Mm-hmm. And we're about a half mile down on the right.
Okay.
Just almost right across from West Cave.
Gotcha. Okay. With y'all being out here, we talked about this a little bit earlier, the traffic that y'all have coming out here. So are y'all part of like different little wine tours that are all in this area that you have people that visit like Fredericksburg or High or Stonewall or Johnson City that come out here?
Well, we opened up in December, so we're still getting our following out there. We have a few buses and tour buses that are signed up to come by. A lot of friends and family, and then kind of permeating out from that, mm-hmm. more and more people coming. We've done some different events. We had a couple of weeks ago, we had our rosé release party. So we had a really good group of people for that. And we're trying to do, wine club pickup parties, which brings more and more people out. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's just kind of fun.
Nice.
Adding new things to the mix.
But we have a very nice venue. We have very nice wines.
Yeah.
The challenge is getting people off 290, to be quite honest. And one of the things we finally got our blue signs out there, which you may have
Yes.
seen, but it sounds like a trivial item. But anything that directs people off 290 to get to our venue.
What you should go out there and do is run some lights out there, like an arrow over there, point over there. Actually, we're doing those arrow turners.
Oh, those flags, yeah.
Well, you can see the building from 290 in that direction. We thought about putting a big billboard on top of the building with flashing lights. So.
That wouldn't be a bad idea. Put up there with wine and just point down.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
very classy.
Yeah.
On brand.
For whatever reason, I'm just thinking of the whole scene from Beetlejuice.
Yeah. And you can dress up like it.
Yeah, no.
No.
I had a thought about that for just a second. I was like, no, let's not do that. Oh man, you also could do helicopter tours. You got a great property out here. I don't know if y'all can, because
they do them next door.
Yeah.
I'm out here working the vineyard during the week, and occasionally I get strafed by the helicopter.
yeah,
Just need to stop here too.
yeah. Hey, that's I've actually got reached out by a company here. I believe they are in Johnson City, I think. That they do helicopter tours to these wineries and stuff. That have them come into Untamed, have them walk right next door.
Yeah.
You can make a little walking path right over there to it and stuff.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That would be nice. That was a 2-for-1 deal there.
Exactly.
So, what is y'all's vision? What is y'all's future looking like for here? I mean, because granted, you just opened up, but you got to always have a vision. You got to have a dream. You got to keep that persistent future out there. You can't ever just let when your vision starts coming up close, you got to be able to push it out further, because because the minute you hit that vision and you say I'm done, then you're done and you don't want to do anything else. So what does the future look like for y'all?
Well, we still need to build our production. We built our tasting room first, so we could get that experience. So we've got a plan mapped out. After he took the UC Davis classes, I took the Texas Tech enology program. So I've got a kind of 80-90% scale, or details of what I want there. So we've kind of got a area for that. We've also got some more area that we want to plant vineyard in. So it's a tricky question, because when we first started out, which really wasn't that long ago, probably 2018, 19, we were thinking, oh, that little building over there, that would be our winery. I can't even put a forklift in there. So, I mean, I clearly didn't know what I was doing there. So, to think, what are you going to be 5 years from now? It's like, oh, what do I not know?
Right.
I think the art component, want to definitely lean into more of that, bring some artists into the space. I think that would be kind of cool. More events. I don't know. What else would you add to that?
Well, I think regardless of the long-term vision, I mean, in the meantime, we're just kind of committed to having the best experience for our customers and making the best wine we possibly can. We set this up to be kind of a higher end experience, both in the wines and in the settings. So we're hoping that model works.
Well, I mean, from what I'm seeing, it looks like it's working so far, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
Well, if you're enjoying the wine, that's good.
Yeah, I'm definitely enjoying it. In fact, actually, he poured some of this Rosé Sangiovese over here. I was wanting to take some of that before it disappears. So, an interesting question here I have is, how does y'all's community reach out? Because some of these communities are like really supportive of these wineries. And I know that here in the Hill Country, a lot of these little towns support their wineries. Do y'all get a lot of support from them? Do they come out, like say the Chamber of Commerce, let's say, for example, do they come out here and they say, we're going to have a local winery event, and they're going to say, we're going to go to this one winery and we're going to hang out right here? Is that kind of what the vibe is out in this area?
Well, we belong to several chambers. We've had some ribbon cuttings, and we had quite a few of them come back to visit. We're starting to reach out to some of the local places. We're from Marble Falls, so in particular, trying to reach out there and see if we can partner with some of those organizations, kind of like give back to some of them. So we're in the early discussions with some of them because it's not just a business; it's about giving back and being part of a larger community too. Right. So,
yeah.
And I'll just say a lot of our day-to-day customers are fairly local, kind of Johnson City, Marble Falls, Dripping Springs, Fredericksburg. So it is important, kind of that connection to the local community. Over the holidays, we worked a festival in Johnson City called Light Spectacular. We had never done a festival, so that was kind of new for us, but it was not only a great opportunity for us to get our wines in front of people, but a lot of them were local. And, all of a sudden we start seeing them the next week or two in our tasting room and saying, oh yeah, I saw you at that event. So we like doing things like that. Local.
It's always good to get your local people involved because they could come out here and they say, oh, you're new here, I'm going to try your wine. And they try it and they're like, oh my gosh. And then they come out here and they see the whole array of what you've got. And then next thing you know, you get to talking with them, having one-on-one conversations with them. You get to know them. And the next thing you know, you've got a new friend.
Right.
Yes.
And then of course a new customer. But I mean, friend's more better term to use.
Yes. Well, no, I think to me, that's one of the great things about owning a winery is, the previous job I had, we made and sold plastic. Now I tell them I make and sell wine. It's a heck of a lot more of a conversation starter, because wine makes people happy, and
it does.
So it's great.
I'll say this literally every episode. I mean, every stinking episode is you don't hear about bar fights in a winery.
Usually not. No,
because I mean, it brings people together. I mean, I don't know how many times we've been into a winery and sit there and just having our own wine. And next thing you know, we are having a conversation with the people next to us over here.
Yes.
And then after that conversation starts, we're talking to the people over here. And the next thing you know, we got people that sit on the other side of the building. All of a sudden, here's our conversation. They come over here. And next thing you know, we've got 30 people having a conversation and having a great time.
Yes.
And then somehow, I ended up buying all the wine.
Because you're such a great guy.
But I mean, I love what wine does to people.
Yes.
I mean, it's the only beverage out there that brings people together, and it doesn't make enemies; it makes friends.
Yes.
And I love that. So, I've got some more questions here. Let's see what we got here. So, I know you're using Kerrville Hills out there for you're doing your production. What kind of technologies are you using when it comes to your winemaking?
Well, all of the whites and the rosés we do in stainless. The reds are either in stainless or been fermented. I don't know if it's high technology. I think it's probably what a lot of people are using. But I think that it's trying to keep clean fermentations, trying to enhance probably the fruitiness of some of these wines and get the expression of the fruit, I think is really important. Get rid of the gaminess and some of the things like that. I use Scott Labs for a lot of my fermentation stuff. So talk to them quite frequently about, how can we better skin the cat? But the rosés I've done have been pressed off as well as Sanyaying those off. Kind of a mixture, depends on the grape. I do a lot of single varietals. I have a blend or two, but I really like working with a good grape and making a really good wine and then showcasing where it came from. I think that you can see variations year to year. For instance, I have a Petit Manseng from John Friesen Vineyard, and I've got 3 years, and they're all three very different. They're the exact same vines, same rows, but a different year, different climate conditions. They're lovely. All of them are lovely when they come in, hand-picked. But by the time you press them off and go through fermentation, you have very different wines. So I think that's kind of cool to be able to showcase the differences. So I do a lot of single varietals, and we do a lot of research on what kind of barrels to use for our reds. Particularly the first year, did a lot of, I guess, called barrel trials. I made a Tannat that I think we had 7 different types of barrels that we fermented in. So I think we had 3 different French, 2 different American, a Hungarian, some neutrals. And so throughout the process, smelled and tasted those wines, and could see the distinct differences, and which helps you hone that program going forward. But also, I think in the end, blending those together created this really complex Tannat that probably won't be replicated because of that.
Right.
So I think, there's a lot of experimentation that's going on, particularly for us being new, being able to kind of see some different things. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that particular Tannat trial, we called our neighbors up and we took barrel samples out of all those different barrels, which is about a dozen barrels, and said, hey, we need to taste a dozen Tannats and judge them tonight. You want to come participate? And they're like, we'll be right over.
Well, if you call anybody up and say, hey, I need you to come drink wine, they're not going to ask questions. They're just going to come and do it.
No.
So I do want to. So one of the things that I love about rosés, okay, and when I educate people on how rosés are made, because people are actually under a misconception of how rosés are made. They think that you take a white and you take a red and you pour it together and you got your rosé. I mean, you can do that.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's not traditional.
Right.
Yeah. Traditional, I tell them that you take your reds, you press it, you remove the skins, and you keep the juice.
Yes.
And I'm trying to remember what that grape was. It's a red grape, but when you press it, it actually is white juice. I'm trying to remember what grape it is. I can't remember off the top of my head. But your Sangiovese here, first off, I love the smell on this. That nose on this is amazing. A lot of raspberry. I mean, like the first thing I smelled was a lot of raspberry. I got a taste of raspberry, and I love raspberries. But on your Sanjo here, did you immediately pull the skins off it, or did you let the skin sit on it for a couple hours?
Well, it came from the high plains.
Okay.
So it was probably on the skins, I'm going to guess about 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours. And as soon as it got into the winery, we pressed it off. So it did have some skin contact, and you can see it's got a kind of a medium color. It's got a nice kind of salmony, pinky color. But it's also gave it a little bit more body, I think, by having it on the skins.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do that. I've got a couple more veds where I saignate off the juice, and they're kind of a lighter, more Provence style. But this one just yielded a more, I think, a food friendly kind of medium bodied rosé, which you can sip it alone, but then also you can eat it with food and enjoy it.
I have to agree with what you said earlier. Sitting at the pool, drinking that right there and not eat it. I will have to agree with you on that one. I can make sure it stays cold. Actually, might just put a straw on it and call it a day.
That's my food pairing. Sit by the pool.
I mean, it's really good. And I love rosés. Like I said, I drink all wines. And I have very few rosés in my collection at the house because, rosés are just not like my... I love a white, I love a red, but there's some rosés that are just like a hit or miss for you. And I'm going to just tell you right now, I'm buying a bottle of this before I leave. Okay.
I call it the red wine drinkers rosé. So
it is absolutely amazing, and I love drinking it. It's actually, in fact, pour me another glass of it because I'm kind of greedy like that.
Well, you got to try the Monty before you finish too.
Okay, I'll tell you what. Let's do the Monty right now, and then we'll go from there. So, but. One thing, what we're talking about rosés, what I love about rosés is that people don't realize you can make a rosé out of any red wine.
Yes.
And I actually heard a rosé of Tannat the other day, and I'm like, who wants to do that? Because Tannat itself, I think it's just, for me, it's earthy.
Yeah.
Until I drank, what's her name? Cheras over at Rustic Spurs.
Yeah.
And she actually changed my mind on how I felt about Tannats. Yeah. And so it has definitely been, when it comes to drinking wines, don't ever get stuck on the way one wine tastes. Try it somewhere else.
Yes. Well, I think it is cool because I would like to, this year, I'm probably going to do a rosé maybe out of Touriga Nacional.
Repeat that again?
Touriga Nacional. That's a varietal. Okay. Like piano.
See, I've so in the last week, I've heard of 4 new varietals that I've never heard of.
Oh, that's great. This is good.
I love learning.
Yeah, that's good. We have Touriga Nacional planted here, but I'm also got some Touriga Nacional from the Phillips Vineyard. And so been trying to think about what might want to add to the mix of rosés, to kind of, again, I don't like to make the same thing all the time. There are a few varietals like Fiano and Tannat we're going to always have, but adding new things.
Okay, what was the name of that varietal again?
Touriga Nacional.
Okay.
It's the biggest grape varietal in Portugal.
So I'm going to ask you this question here. How many times did it take you to enunciate that properly?
Well, it depends how much wine I've had.
We don't even know if that's the proper pronunciation.
Because I'm not going to lie, the first time I saw Tarragado, I looked at it and I said Talladega Nights.
Well, that could work.
I tried to, and someone actually came in and said that's actually enunciated Tarragado, and I tried. I'm not going to lie, I tried, and then finally one day I woke up and I walked in. I said, "Oh, that's Tarragado, no big deal." And I kept on walking, and I'm like, "What just happened there?" So you don't have any of that right now at this moment.
Well, I have some Triga Nacional in barrel from them, and we're going to harvest some for our estate too. But then this year, the harvest, I think I'm going to Sanier off some. I think this is putting my plan together to get a rosé out of that as well. So to your point, try a different varietal with another rosé.
Yeah, I may have to see about getting a bottle of that once you get it done, because I want to try it. Literally, I've never heard it before, and I would love to try it because I've never heard of any other winery having some of that. So I may have to get a bottle of that from you.
Okay, well, I'll put you down.
Okay.
Pre-order.
Am I your first one?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. Well, your Montepulciano right here, man, I love that nose on it. That nose is, it makes me smile.
Well, that makes me smile. See, that's the whole point of winemaking.
Yeah, that's what I love about winemaking is it puts smiles on people's face, whether they're sober or they're drunk, one of the two.
Yes, exactly. No, it was a really fun one to make. The grapes for this one came in really late in the harvest, so they had really good sugar, really great chemistry, and I kind of hoped that it was going to make a really good wine and really deep, dark fruit. Oaked it for a couple of years, and it's from Cannon County to 2021, Montepulciano. And so, I was just really pleased, and then released it for the Eclipse party, so I was able to put my art on the front, which was kind of fun. It's,
one of the things I love about doing this podcast is going around and learning what other winemakers do for their wines. So I'm going to tell you about a gentleman by the name of Jackson down at Square Cloud. And this is my first interaction with Montepulciano. So we're sitting there doing an episode with Michael Cook, and I look out the corner of my eyes and I see him dropping what looked like a maraschino cherry in somebody's wine. And I go like this, I snap my neck over and I'm looking at it and I'm like, what is this guy doing here? Is he crazy or something? And so he comes over and we're doing our episode with him, and we're sitting there talking and stuff, and he tells us that he does not do anything in oak barrels whatsoever. Everything is all stainless steel. That's the way he wants stuff. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then I asked him, I said, I saw you drop a cherry in someone's wine a while ago. And he kind of chuckled and he goes, no, that wasn't a cherry. That was an oak ball. Oak ball? He goes, yeah, somebody wants an oaky taste in their wine because I don't use any oak whatsoever. I drop an oak ball in there. And it adds that extra layer of flavor to it. And I'm like, well, that was interesting. I've never actually heard of anybody doing that before. So I was discussing with a couple of winemakers during the Lone Star International, and I was talking about that. And they said, yeah, what that does, that adds a layer, but it's a top layer, not an inside layer. And I had actually, it provoked a lot of thought process right that. So during fermentation and during aging, you have layers that you're putting inside there. So before you bottle, your layers are all inside. After you get through bottling, anything outside of that is an outside layer, which it does not add a true flavor to that wine, whereas if you did it on the inside. And it really was an interesting concept that I never thought about. And they actually called Jackson the mad scientist. But this is what I love about doing this, is I love letting people hear about how every winemaker do their own thing, because you learn something different from them. Yes. And again, I just learned something new from you. And so I love that. I love what you're doing here. So, well, where can people find y'all at online?
We are at www.portreecellars.com. We are active on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. So take a look at any of those. We try to post pretty regularly about events coming up, new wines coming out, things going on in the vineyard. We'll be probably picking grapes, end of July, early August. So if somebody wants to come out and experience harvest, it's so much fun.
Hey, let me tell you how to make some money.
We do it early in the morning,
okay.
But Well, charge them? Is that what you're going to tell me?
Here's what some of the wineries up in North Texas are doing. Like they're like, hey, we're having a harvest party. get a free glass of wine, a T-shirt. You pay $30. You come out here and harvest.
Yeah.
It's a great model.
So instead of you shelling money out, you're actually making money off of it.
Yeah.
Should we edit this out so they don't hear this? So, and where can they find you? What's your physical address here?
We're at 1320 Ranch Road. Oh, no, excuse me. 668 Ranch Road, 1320. Oh, I have too much wine now. 668 Ranch Road, 1320, which is Sandy Road. And we're in Johnson City, Texas, 78636. So, yeah, we're actually Johnson City address. We're just on the very edge. We're probably, 7 miles from Johnson City.
Okay.
So if you go to Johnson City and you head west, go about 7 miles, then you'll take a right on Sandy Road.
Okay.
And we're just half mile up the road.
Awesome. Well, what we're going to do now is we're going to take a small little break.
Okay.
We're going to come back and we're going to do some education and just kind of preface what we're going to talk about education is we're going to talk about how the terroir affects your grapes because you actually have multiple varietals for multiple years and how those terroirs affects each one of them. We're going to talk about that when we get back. Okay. So folks, we'll be right back in just a second.
Okay,
Cheers.
great.
Hey, this is Jeff Cole from TexasWineLover.com. We're here with Will, Michael, and Jen from We Know Texas We Know.
And this is Amy Nemec with the Texas Wine Lover mobile app. We're wrapping up the interview and moving into the wine education portion of the episode, so stick with us.
Welcome back, everybody, to We Know Texas Vino. And as y'all all know, this is actually one of my favorite segments of the show, and this is the education. And so Janet here actually brought up a really, really great topic offline, and so we're going to actually talk about this. So she has 4 different vintages of different varietals that you have here. And she likes to do a tasting with each one of those to show the difference of the terroir, correct? Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah. I mean, I really like doing single varietal wines. I guess it's part of the geek in me. I don't know. I mean, I like to see what that grape tastes like and where it came from and the year it was grown. There's some lovely blends out there where you kind of blend a whole bunch of different things together and make a lovely wine. But I don't get to experience what that particular grape is. And I don't learn as much about that. So it manifests itself in a couple different ways. One, I've got several different Mourvèdres from different locations. I've got an estate Mourvèdre, which I did not oak this year. I've actually took it straight to bottle after about four months. So it's very fruity, kind of and very floral wine. I've got a Mourvèdre from the High Plains, from Buena Suerte Vineyard. It's kind of more, did oak it in French and Hungarian oak, but more of a red, kind of medium-bodied Mourvèdre. And then recently I bottled 2 more Mourvèdres from the Hill Country, one from Parr Vineyard, one from Hoover Valley. Kind of deeper, darker, richer Mourvèdre. They're all the same varietal, right? But they're from different places, and I'm really excited about the thought of being able to lay those out in front of people and say, okay, this is all the same grape, and they're all from different places in different years, and people can go, really? I like this one, but I don't like this one. It was like, well, it's all the same grape, but it's kind of a learning process. And then similarly, taking that same varietal, the same, even the vines, and being able to see year over year changes. For instance, my Petite Manseng from John Friesen Vineyard, the first year I got it in 21, it's a lighter colored wine. You look at it, it's kind of a straw color, delicious wine. 21 versus 22, different kind of growing conditions, different kind of rain, different kind of soil. It's the same soil, but how it's reacting to the climate that it's in. The vines are more mature, and it's a more of a golden color. And it was actually the same protocols, the same fermentation process, but yet it's very different. And so some of my customers prefer one versus the other, but it's the same vines, right? But I just think that's just really cool to be able to show that. And after I have my 23 ready, I'll be able to do a whole flight of Petite Manseng, to see what that's kind of what the difference a year makes. Really, is what it is.
You know what you should do is you take, let's say your Mourvèdre, and pour them 4 glasses, all right, 4 different vintages, and then don't even tell them what it is. let them drink it and say, what do you think this is? And see if they actually say, hey, it's a Morvet or it's a whatever.
Right.
And then when they say, and then I say, which one do you like the best? And you point it out, and they point it out. And then you tell them, oh, all 4 of them are the same grape.
Yes.
Don't even tell them what it is. Just let them blind taste it and see what they say.
I think that'd be really cool. I mean, and really, you get that around the world, right? You can get different Morveds or different Tempranillo, right? Old world versus new world. That's kind of, when you do those tastings, you can say, well, this is grown in a different place and it yields something totally different. I just think that's really cool.
Now, I've done that. So we did a tasting with Edge of the Lake a couple months ago, and that's what we did. So what we did was we took Texas version of 4 different wines, and then we took the European version of it and blind tasted it. Hey, you got to pick out which one is the Texas. And for the most part, people picked out the Texas one first before they picked out the European one because they liked it better. And then, of course, we had a couple of people who actually has those really great refined palates that like, oh, this is Tempranillo that was aged over here in this barrel and started going into all the details. And I'm like, okay, I didn't really was going to do that. But I mean, it is fun to actually drink the wine and not knowing what you're drinking. And then all of a sudden they say, oh, well, this is all 4 of these are the same one. And then, and the reaction that people have over that.
Yes.
Terroir actually plays such a huge factor in the way things are. So like, for example, you got limestone up here. So the limestone is going to affect the way those grapes are going to come out.
Yes.
Whereas you take that same varietal and you go over to, let's say, Lubbock, and it's going to be completely different. Or let's even say we go to East Texas, and it's going to be different over there.
Yes, that's very true.
And in fact, those Morvets that Janet mentioned, they're all very different terroirs. We have our estate that we bottled last year, which is very limestone soil. The Parr Vineyard is more of the kind of hickory sands, I think. Yes. And then the Hoover, of course, is now the Uplift AVA. And then you got Buena Suerte, which is high plains. So they're all very different terroirs.
And actually, I can give a great example of this. Is was it last year? I tried my very first Tannat. Never heard of it before. I tried my very first Tannat, and I didn't really care for it. I mean, it was very earthy. I mean, it was very in the back of your throat. I mean, I feel like I had it took a big mouthful of dirt and shoved it in the back of my throat. And I was like, I don't like this. And then I came down here and we went to Rustic Spur, and Shara brought out her Tannat, and I drank it, and I'm like, oh, I like this. And then she told me it was Tannat, and I'm like, oh. Ended up buying 2 bottles of her Tannat. Yes. But I've learned from that experience right there. You know the old saying, don't ever judge a book by its cover. That's the same way with wine.
Yes.
Don't judge it just because one person had a wine that you didn't like it. Try it somewhere else, because guarantee you that terroir where that grape came from is going to be different from what you just had.
Yes. I think that's one of the cool things about wine, actually.
It is. I mean, who was we talking with? I'm trying to think who I was talking with this. We were talking about the age of a grapevine, that you can get a grapevine that's 5 years old, and we're going to compare it like a human being. A 5-year-old is not very mature. A 5-year-old vine is not mature versus a 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100-year-old vine who's matured. And in that time frame, they've actually seen different terroirs.
Yes.
And they have adapted and overcome. And because of that, they add more characteristic to that grape. And because of the terroir that they've been affected to, they may have had year 99, they may have this hard freeze, but then all of a sudden in 2024, they have this really drought.
Right.
And that's characteristics being built right there.
That could be what's going on with that Petite Manseng, because those are pretty young vines. So quite a bit of difference between those 2 vintages. It'll be interesting to see what the 2023 looks like.
Yeah. No, I think that's really cool. And that is, I think with time, as we build up our portfolio, being able to have several years of the same vines in different vintages, I think it's just a really neat experience for people.
Oh, yeah.
So
I think that people, when they listen to this podcast, I know that they're getting a little education out of this, because it's just, they come up and say, hey, I did not know about that, about grapes. I didn't know. In fact, actually, when I tell this at the winery that I work at, I say, hey, this grape right here, if you went over here across the street and got it from another winery, it's going to be 2 totally different grapes, even though they came out, 2 different wines, even though they came from the same vine.
Right.
But then you turn around and say, if you go over here to this one and try it off of there, it's going to be a different grape because it came from East Texas or it came from the high plains or came from the hill country or whatever. And people, when you tell them that, they give you this deer in the headlight look. And you have to kind of explain to them for a little bit, like, because the environment around them, and I tell them terroir, but I have to tell them environment because sometimes saying the word terroir, it kind of like
It's very French.
It's very French. Well, they think I'm saying terror, so they get kind of scared. So I tell them basically it means environment, everything that's encompassed. Because I mean, literally a bug can come land on the grape, and all of a sudden it changes the composition of that grape right then.
Right. Well, even within our small vineyard, we've got Tannat and Fianna planted in 2 different places, and the soil is very different. So I'm sure there are going to be differences between those two, just those 2 locations.
That would be different. Definitely a way to taste the difference in between the 2 of soil.
Yes.
That would be great. So, well, I want to thank y'all both for having me on here. Janet and Mark, y'all are great people. What you've got going on here is amazing. I hope nothing but the best for y'all. I mean, you've already winning awards, so you're on down the right path, right? I mean, correct? So.
Well, thank you very much for having us.
Y'all have been really fun to talk with and laugh and stuff. So real quick, I want to go through our sponsors, which is one of our sponsors is the Texas Wine Lover. I mean, obviously you're signed up on it.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Awesome. I love Amy. What Amy's done over there, what Jeff's done over there. I mean, they both have something amazing going on. And then we have another sponsor, Fly with Wine. Have y'all heard of them?
No.
So if you ever go to Europe and drink wine, you want to bring some back, instead of shipping it UPS or FedEx, get their suitcase, put it in there, and the money that you'll spend for UPS or FedEx, you can just check in your luggage. When you land, it's been safely shipped. You can get outside of your car. You can open a bottle of wine and drive home and drink it.
Nice.
Awesome.
Nice.
Immediate gratification.
Exactly. You don't have to wait another 2 or 3 weeks to get those cases in.
Good.
So those are our 2 big sponsors. Now it comes to the best part of the show here. Well, no, y'all were the best part of the show. This is the second best part of the show. Okay. So this is our wine quotes. All right. So this one actually really isn't a wine quote, but it's a daily reason for a glass of wine. Are y'all ready for this?
Yes.
Okay. So Monday. It was Monday. It was nice. Monday. It was a Monday. I was nice to everyone at work. Tuesday. The bottle of wine looked lonely. Wednesday. Wine Wednesday. Hump day. Durr. Thursday, the bottle of wine need mouth to mouth. Friday, it's Friday. Need we say more? Saturday, drinking wine will make me feel better. Sunday, fun day. Mental prep for the new week.
Amen.
Words to live by.
Exactly. I mean, being in the corporate world, we all know how that feels.
Yes,
So,
definitely.
well, this is Will with We Know Texas Vino. We appreciate y'all having us out here, and y'all have a great day, and cheers.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.